All right, guys, we're back. We're going to be talking about Unit 4, 4A, 4B in Arizona. We're talking Arizona elk, archery, rifle, muzzleloader, anything draw strategy this year. So we're just talking unit specific, and I want to kind of jump into this. So Unit 4 is typically known as a unit that is heavily timbered ponderosa pines, has good elk quality, has good elk population, not a unit or units, because 4 is divided into 2 subunits, 4A, 4B, not units that are typically known for giant bulls, although it is close enough to the Indian reservation, obviously, to get giant bulls. I want a disclaimer. There have been some of the biggest bulls ever shot in Arizona, actually, that come out of these areas. But by and large, year to year, it's not units that guys are shooting giant bulls. And I think part of that is just due to the terrain. So a lot of it is flat. Okay, so 4A, 4B is pretty flat, relatively speaking. There's not giant canyons and giant topography and giant mountain ranges that elk can kind of, spread out on, and guys can glass from miles away and really pick apart these things. So when you're hunting these elk up along the Mogollon Rim in some of that pine timber ponderosa country in the state forest, which this unit is, these units are very public, almost all public land. There's a little bit of private here and there. You're bordering the Navajo Nation to your north. But for the most part, you can drive anywhere, get anywhere. The access is fantastic in these units. Draw odds are kind of middle of the road. So as you'd expect, early archery season, it's hard to draw. Early rifle season, it's very hard to draw. That goes without saying across the board. And there will be some really big bulls killed in that early season. But what you'd expect from the later seasons, 8 to 15 points, depending on, what resident, non-resident, and kind of what exactly the hunt you're choosing. That's just the cost to play the game in Arizona. To draw a middle of the road, pretty good, high quality rifle tag or archery tag, you're going to have around 10 points. For a well-known area that, like I said, has really good access, really easy hunter access, stuff that anybody can hunt. Doesn't really, it doesn't really divide a lot of hunters. Anybody can go in there and be successful. And so anytime you have units like that, the draw odds are naturally going to be a little bit higher. That doesn't necessarily mean, or the draw odds are going to be a little bit more difficult, I should say. The bonus points and the necessity for bonus points are going to be a little bit harder. But anytime you have these units that are easily accessible, it's going to attract a lot of people. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they are the biggest bulls are getting killed out of there. It just means it's a very good place to hunt for access wise and public land wise and roads and on foot. And it's also a very nice, beautiful area. A lot of it is timber. The northern half is broken up into juniper, kind of canyon country, juniper pinyon pines, rolling hills. And then the southern half of Unit 4 altogether is typically mainly ponderosa pine country, a lot of timber where these elk live. So as you can see, when I'm going over through the draw odds and going through some of this stuff, going over the maps with you guys, you understand kind of where to focus, what you're looking at. I really want to give you an idea just to clarify a few things that some people may not know, just going in there, never having stepped foot in Unit 4. But it's a really popular place to hunt just from the access point of view. And that's what makes Unit 1 kind of a special place as well, because it's a really nice place to camp. There's lakes where you can fish. There's access that people go spend their summers there. And so a lot of people in Arizona as residents from Tucson and Phoenix, they like to go vacation, or they like to go spend their summers up in some of these northern areas at 7,000 feet in the pines when it's 120 degrees in the valley. So it's a place that people are familiar with, they have access to, and so that's another reason why it's a very popular place to hunt, because people can go there, have fun in the summer, and when they actually do draw an elk tag, they're already familiar with the areas and they can kind of, get in the right direction. So if you are one of those people, that is a great way to start. I always suggest if you draw an elk tag, whether you're a resident or a non-resident and you haven't spent a lot of time in that unit, go spend a summer vacation there, meaning go on a camping trip, go just get exposed to the area, whether the elk are have horns on their head or not. It's really important for you to be in that area. A lot of our information that we give, like with our guys, either whether our clients or guys that have scouting packages from us or drop camps, really an important thing is we not only use historical information, but it's really important to know what the elk are doing that year, what the precipitation is doing right now, where the water holes are that year, and really having current information. So when you guys draw that tag, it's really important for you to get out there, just have an understanding of it, drive some roads, get some points on a map. And there's some cool stuff, as you can see kind of when I'm going through on the map. There's some cool stuff, lots of little water holes, lots of places, lots of meadows that elk can kind of tuck into. Very similar to Unit 3 in the fact that when it's a dry year, guys, all those elk are going to push down south, get in that higher elevation country and stay tucked up high, where there's a lot more water and the feed is more readily available, more reliable. And then when it's a wet year, moderate to wet year, these elk are going to spread out and kind of get in their own territory and go up further north, up along the Navajo Nation reservation line and kind of spread out. So when you're hunting that early season, you can expect some hunting pressure. Obviously, you can expect some elk bugling, but really, it's really important for you to really cover ground and understand where these elk are watering and patterning and doing all that stuff. You need to be boots on the ground for that reason, because understanding where they bed and where they water and some of their travel routes are the most effective way to kill these elk in the early season. Due to the fact that you can't do a lot of glassing, you can't really sit back and glass these elk from a distance. You have to be kind of in their bubble a lot to understand them. And that's not a tall order because of the access, because it's very easy to move around in vehicle and on foot. It's very easy to kind of get to know some areas and get to know the water holes and some of the little secret water holes that are around. And then get up into antelope country. If the water's good, if it's good precipitation here, don't forget about the antelope country up further north along the reservation. And when I say antelope country, not necessarily there's tons of antelope running around, but like just barren. Sometimes there's just grassy, just grassy hillsides, grassy rolling hills for a while that you're like, elk, they shouldn't be here, but they really are. If you have a good weather year, these elk push out into some of that more desolate country from our eyes, but really they enjoy it. They have a good time being out there and away from a lot of other pressure and sometimes a lot of elk. So these bigger bulls in the early season will actually push these cows out into some of that more remote type country, into those junipers, and kind of get secluded. For late rifle, it's very it can be a very challenging hunt just for that reason, because you don't have the elk talking at you. They're not telling you where they are 100% of the time. So really understanding water holes, understanding the vantage points that you do have. The elk in that late rifle season will tuck into some of these little canyons, these little ravines that exist, and then finding elevation points is really important as well to glass and find these bulls in their winter grounds. So late rifle hunts, again, it doesn't take a momentous amount of bonus points to draw, but you can't draw it every year. So you're looking at your medium point range on that as far as, if you're resident or non-resident. And, don't be afraid in that late rifle season to sit water. I know a lot of guys that have had success sitting water in that late rifle season, and you'll hear some people say, oh, you can't do that, it's wintertime, there could be snow on the ground. That doesn't really matter. These elk are habitual, they're pattern, they follow a certain kind of set pattern for their survival. So guys, don't be afraid to sit water, especially if you see fresh sign. I'm not suggesting that you just go show up randomly at a water hole. You got to do your research, do your scouting, and you got to be willing to sit and not see anything for a few hours or maybe even a day or two to have success. So, all right, guys, that's Unit 4 in a nutshell. I hope it helped. I hope going over the map and actually looking at these areas and going over some of the actual draw odds from Go Hunt. And then the map obviously is onX map. If you guys haven't used that, it's pretty handy in most scenarios. So hope it all helped, guys. I'm going to be running through these units so you are as educated as you could possibly be before you press submit on that draw application. And I will go through a draw application video where I just make it very, very quick and simple about how to actually apply for the draw online. You know, you buy a license, you go into the apply for draw kind of link, etc., etc. I will do that for you guys, and that way you understand and can see it firsthand. So, all right, good luck. Hopefully you guys feel a little bit better if you're going to be applying for this unit, and I'll be going through some more units next video. All right, talk to you guys later.